from Brooklyn initials AB. Assalamu alaikum. What is the ruling on clapping after speeches, talks, or in general?
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillahi, amma ba'd. What's the ruling on clapping after speeches or talks or lectures, etc.? It shouldn't be done. I wouldn't advise with it. I wouldn't recommend it for people to clap after a speech. I would say stay away from it, and Allah knows best.
Initials SM from Atlanta. Assalamu alaikum. Is qat haram to chew? If so, what's the evidence? Because it's a real problem in my home, Ethiopia.
Question is talking about qat. Is it haram to chew? If so, what's the evidence? Because it's a big problem in my country. Like my previous answer, I would say stay away from chewing qat. Don't chew it, whether it's haram or not. Back home in my country in Ethiopia, of course, we all know the epidemic of qat in Yemen. Huge problem. I would say don't chew it, don't sell it, don't buy it, don't get it from no one, and advise others to do the same. Is it haram? Is it not haram? What's the proof, etc.? Let's just look at what it does. What does qat do to the person? Can you just chew a little bit and that's it? Like coffee, like caffeine? Or you become addicted to the qat. And you sit and you chew and you chew and you sit and you talk. And how much of it are you chewing? And how often do you have to chew it? How much does it cost? And what does it prevent you from doing? Does it prevent you from eating? Does it prevent you from doing your other responsibilities and duties of life? How much land, farmland, does qat take up? And I'm not saying Ethiopia is a starving or impoverished country, or Yemen, but countries in which there are people that are poor and people that are needy. What could be grown on those lands? What types of grain, fruit, and vegetable could be grown for the thousands, if not millions of people that don't have meals to eat, but there's qat being grown? Okay, people that are begging for money, for food, they spend it on qat. And I'm not taking this from a storybook or from some type of YouTube documentary, but only from my own two eyes when I was in Yemen. And I saw the qat farms, farm after farm after farm after farm. It was nothing but qat. And I asked the brother when we were driving on the bus, I said, what is all of this? Why are people so hungry in Yemen? He said that everything you see is qat. And every day they drive from this part of Yemen to the next part of Yemen, and they rush and they speed, and there's dangerous truck accidents because they want to get it fresh back to this city and that city, to the capital in this part of the north. And then the mashes, the people that didn't have money, the children that were starving, the men that were deformed and hurt and hungry and messed up, but they had enough money for qat. And I went to the street in which there was the qat market and saw the guy on the back of the truck sitting with the bags of qat behind him, and the people in front of him piled up, stacked up in front of each other. The closest thing that I could possibly say, maybe you guys are too young for this, or people may not remember, but in the movie New Jack City, Nino Brown at the Carter, in which there were crack fiends like zombies, literal zombies, stacked on top of each other, living on each other, no food, no hygiene, no cleanliness, but they have enough money for what? For crack. And of course, many of us, unfortunately, don't have to know what this is to watch it in a movie, but we actually saw it with our own eyes. Heroin addicts, crack addicts, people that are zombies. They worship the drug that they're smoking or shooting, sticking in their veins. All right? That's just a reference to a popular film in pop culture. All right? With regards to the crack attack, the crack epidemic of the 80s and the 90s. All right? In the inner urban cities. That's just a reference to a film. But we've seen that as well, real life, in which somebody, a man who was once a father, a worker, he had a talent, he had a skill, he strung out on crack. A woman who's once beautiful and clean and chaste and a mother is now a whore for crack. A person who was once a great athlete, talented, in college, about to go to the NFL, the NBA, is now strung out on crack, strung out on heroin. And their lives mean nothing except for getting more crack, more heroin, more alcohol, and the list goes on. So is qat haram or not? Let's just look at what it does to the people. How many people don't have money, don't have food, but they buy qat and they chew qat? And I saw this what? with my own two eyes when I was in Yemen. And that was the first thing that I thought about when I was on that street at that cotton market was Nino Brown after Carter. Literally. Just caught zombies. Huh? Allahul Musta'an. So that's my answer with regards to qat. And that's my advice with regards to qat. And that's my evidence for what? For the vice of qat. Wallahu alam. Scholastic debates will what? They'll never end. Scholastic debates will never end. All these people, oh, it's not haram. Sheikh Funan said it's not haram. It's okay. Just look at the what? Look at the result of it. Look at what comes forth from it. And Allah knows best.
Initials IH from Minneapolis, Minnesota. Assalamu alaikum, Mufti. Is it allowed to go in and out, like taking stuff from a bathroom, who's listening to hadith in the earphones?
Say the question again?
The question says, is it allowed to go in and out, like taking stuff from bathroom, who listening, while listening to hadith in the earphones?
Tight. Going in and out of a bathroom while listening to hadiths on the headphones, AirPods, whatever. There's nothing wrong with that, inshallah. It's permissible for you to listen to the dhikr of Allah and to ilm with headphones going in and out of the bathroom. There's nothing wrong with that, and Allah knows best.
Initials OS from Chino Hills, Illinois. What was it? C Hills? Country Club Hills, Illinois. Can you provide further clarification on what loose means on the conditions of hijab? It seems some people think that the common abaya meets the definition of loose, and some think the shape of the jilbab meets the meaning at minimum. For example, if a sister's garment fit like yours does, would that be considered loose enough? Like a thawb does. Would that be considered loose enough?
Tight. Where's the question from?
Illinois. Country Club Hills.
Questions from Country Club Hills, Illinois. With regards to what is considered loose on a woman's garment. Is it this type of garment, this style of garment, like a man's thobe, the shape, so on and so on and so forth? It's always going to be subjective and relative, always. But we just got to use a bit of common sense now. A bit of common sense. Let's just use common sense, all right? No matter how many layers of clothing that I'm wearing, you can see and you can tell that I'm a thin person. I'm skinny. I'm not fat. I'm not obese. I'm not brolic, really super, beefy type of guy. I can have muscles. My body could be chiseled, but for sure I'm thin. That's a fact. No matter how many layers of clothing I'm wearing, no matter how loose my thobe is, you know that I'm thin. I can't hide that from anyone. But you don't know exactly how thin or how thick my arms are, the shape of them, the cut of them. You don't know specifically. And that's because my clothes are loose. But if my thobe is this tight or just a little bit more snug, you can what? You can pretty much get an idea of how thick or how thin my arm is, how skinny I am. Everyone understand this? So let's just use common sense with regards to a woman's overgarment. If you weigh this amount, you weigh that amount, of this height, that height, the people are going to see in general. مَا ظَهَرَ مِنْهَا. There's no doubt about that. But the shape of your body, the figure of your body, the contour of your body, the loose, tight parts of your body, that is something that no one is supposed to see from your garment. And the moment someone can see that you have this type of arm or that type of arm, the arms and the sleeves of the overgarment are what? They're too tight. They're too tight. The moment that a person can see this about your legs or your hips or your waist or your chest, your overgarment is what? It's too tight and it isn't loose enough. Or if it is loose, you need another layer on top of it. Or the fabric. So there is no one specific hadith that mandates tightness, looseness. Loose clothes, fad, loose. Whatever is considered to be what? Loose. Now, a very important point is that people, they get too stylish sometimes. Brothers and sisters, they get too stylish with overgarments. And they want to make too much out of a style of it and too much out of fashion and too much out of a modern, hip type of fashion. Stick with the traditional cultural overgarment. According to those people who are upon the sunnah. If you go to people from Bangladesh and they're the ones with ilm and sunnah, you will see how the women dress. From Saudi, from Ghana, from Gambia, from Mali. It's all the same. And the ones that are loose Muslims half Muslims, secular Muslims, you'll find the garments what? Being tighter and more revealing. But if you want to know what is considered loose culturally, go to the people of ilm. Go to the people of ilm. If there's a scholar from Ivory Coast, look how his wife and daughter dresses. And you'll say, that's the Ivory Coast way of loose overgarment. And those who aren't that knowledgeable, aren't that pious, aren't on the sunnah, you'll find a little what? Mixing and matching. Everyone understand this? So there is no one specific rule of what is and what isn't looseness. It's a linguistical term, and it's going to go back to the culture, but the culture of the knowledgeable and learned people of the what? Sunnah. The Sunnah people of that culture. They're going to dictate and determine what is considered a loose overgarment. And what's considered a what? A tight overgarment. There is no one rule. It's always going to be subjective. It depends on the style. It depends on the cut. It depends on the fabric. My advice is not to make the hijab a fashion statement, as many sisters wish to do. And they want to fit in and look. Keep it simple. Keep it easy. Hijab is not meant to be fashion. You can dress how you want in the house. You can look nice and be fly in the house. Outside, be basic and be humble. And the same applies with regards to thobes. Thobe shouldn't be too fancy. It shouldn't be too contoured. There's nothing wrong with that. On the sleeve, that's fine. Mashy. But now your thobe is what? Tight. Hugging you. Something's wrong. You understand what I'm saying to you? It's just not, you should dress like that. And Allah knows best. That's in brief. There's nothing wrong with that. The woman's fine. No best. That's not what I'm talking about.
Next question is initials AB from London, UK. What does Islam say about this disease called nationalism?
Question from London. What does Islam say about the disease called nationalism? Muslim is supposed to have the nation of Iman. The nation of La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. Those are my brothers. Those are my friends. Those are my helpers, my supporters, and my allies. Those who say La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. Those who pray, those who fast, those who give zakah. Those are my people, the people of my nation. Understand this? If I live in a country, there are going to be natural things that you're going to love of the country. Natural things that you're going to want of the country. Natural things that you want to defend of the what? Of the country. Natural things. But they are to remain what? Natural. And not supposed to exceed the limits of natural. Everyone understand this? And not supposed to clash against any rule from the Kitab and the Sunnah. So if the brothers are sitting around and they're joking, and they make a joke, Philly versus New York. The Eagles lost. Did the Giants win? I'm not sure. They lost?
They didn't play each other.
They didn't play. But what did they win yesterday? Okay, alhamdulillah. That's one thing. You understand what I'm saying to you? But it can't be a thing in which it exceeds that what? That type of joke. Yeah. And it exceeds that type of joke, all right? And it exceeds the natural basic limit, okay? And it comes before the rules of what? Quran and Sunnah. That's a problem. Everyone understand this? The history of nations, the fall of the Ottoman Caliphate, Ataturk, World War I, the League of Nations, Churchill, all of the stuff that happened to the Muslims in the Middle East and North Africa and Palestine, and how the Muslims were carved up and split up and dissected. It's a musibah. It's a calamity. And the people today are living in what? The after effects of that, of what happened in the early 20th century. Okay? And the rise of nationalism and Arab nationalism and its nationalism and so on and so forth. Last piece of advice I would say, and Allah knows best, is that many people, they confuse natural love for your country or care and concern for your family and for your people and for your race with nationalism, and that's wrong. There's a difference in which a person says, I have to look after my people first. I have to give dawah to my people. This is the culture of my people, the language of my people. I'm not going to allow a foreigner come in and to split and to divide and conquer and mess up my people. Everyone understand this? That's not necessarily what? Nationalism. Many people, they confuse the two and they aren't the same. As far as what Islam says about nationalism and a disease, then that is clear as day. Your wali and your awliya are supposed to be those who are believers. وَهُمْ رَاكِعُونَ, the Quran says. Those who make ruku'. That's your wali. Huh? Those are the people you're supposed to be with. No matter what country they come from, what race, what sex, what gender, no matter what their skin look like, so on and so forth. Wallahu alam.
KY from Malaysia. How to deal with parents who gossip about you and slander you because you try to follow Islam.
Questions from Malaysia. Dealing with parents who slander or backbite you, gossip you because you try to practice Islam. Idfa' billati hiya ahsanu sayyi'ah. When they do bad things, you do good things. If they're ugly, you be pretty. They backbite you, they slander you, you serve them. You obey them in the ma'ruf. Give them gifts. Take care of them. Kill them with kindness. Kill them with kindness. Don't stoop down to their level. Don't speak ill of them. Don't become impulsive. Don't become angry. Of course, these are human emotions. It's easier said than done. We all lose our temper at one point in time in our lives. But that's my advice on how to deal with them. Make dua that Allah will guide them. Be patient upon them. There was a time in which you weren't wearing a beard. There was a time in which you weren't wearing a thobe. There was a time in which you didn't wear overgarment. There was a time in which you didn't make fajr in the morning. Now Allah has blessed you. Allah has enlightened you, opened up your heart, and they still remain in darkness. Be patient upon them. Make dua for them. Be kind with them. Don't retaliate. Because in most cases, that's what they're looking for. And they're looking to say, see, I told you. I told you it was just a phase. In most cases, they're looking for an excuse. Oh, just because you have a beard doesn't mean you're pious. Just because you make fajr in the morning and not oversleep doesn't mean that you're better than me. They're looking for a reason to bash you. That's my advice. Wallahu alam.
Initials KA from Toronto, Canada. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Mufti, have you ever tried Peruvian food?
Question is from Toronto. Have you ever tried Peruvian food, Mufti? Let's see. Have we ever had Peruvian food? I don't think so. I heard it was good though. I would like to try it. I don't know of any halal Peruvian restaurants here in New York. I'm sure there is one, at least. I've never been to Peru. I would like to go and visit. Maybe one day we can have some what? Good Peruvian food. Inshallah. Allah's name be praised. Khalas. Sallallahu alaihi wa sallam wa barak. Ala abdihi wa rasulihi nabiyina wa imamina Muhammad.